YouTuber Pedro Ruiz was shot and killed by his pregnant girlfriend Mona Lisa Perez in a YouTube video stunt that went tragically wrong. The couple documented their lives together as teen parents on YouTube. However, today Mona Lisa is in jail, 7 months pregnant with her second child after shooting Pedro with a .50 caliber Desert Eagle handgun. According to police reports, Pedro thought he could stop the bullet with a very large, thick book, and that the stunt would make for a great video. Mona Lisa tweeted just hours before the incident saying, "Me and Pedro are probably going to shoot one of the most dangerous videos ever. His idea, not mine." Pedro came up with the idea after shooting practice. Ruiz had practiced shooting books and showed off one that a bullet did not penetrate in order to convince Perez.
It's the easiest thing in the world, isn't it? Just the easiest thing in the world to look down on these guys, to say, what a bunch of retards, what two imbeciles. You know, this is Darwinism at work. If only stuff like this happened more often, we would have fewer idiots around. I know this is how you feel. I know your heart is cold. But before you cast that first stone, you really have to ask yourself, have you ever walked a day in the shoes of a YouTube creator, you know, glancing at your laptop constantly, going to YouTube analytics, seeing the number of views, seeing the number of comments, the, you know, audience retention? It's a real fucking pain. And you do get desperate, man. You really have to understand that you do get desperate. And, you know, I have to confess that I participated in a similar stunt. Yes, I participated in something so similar that it's kind of uncanny. I was Mona Lisa Perez, and I did shoot the gun. And Pedro Ruiz was Stephan Molyneux. Now, the story I'm about to tell you, it's very strange. It's a very unusual story. I mean, it's extraordinary, and I'm gonna go until the end of my life not encountering anything like it. But though the story is strange, it's also 100% true. I mean, why would I lie to you about shooting Stephan Molyneux for a YouTube video? It's just something I wouldn't do. And if you doubt me, you're just a cynical piece of shit. You're a cynical piece of shit. Fuck you and your mother. I wouldn't lie on this channel if my life depended on it. Today you guys know me as a YouTube powerhouse, but actually it hasn't always been this way. It's only not so long ago that I was struggling for subscribers, struggling for views. I only had like 11 subscribers, and damn it, I needed more, and I was willing to do anything it took to get there. I was really desperate for attention. And so this one day I receive a call out of the blue, and you know, I take it, and the voice on the other line is almost kind of robotic. At first I thought it was some sort of a advertisement, and he says, you know, I'm a ethno-libertarian, freedom-loving individualist, and I come to speak with you today on behalf of the master. And I was like, okay, man, what do you have for me? And he's like, the master has been really enjoying your channel, really digging your content, and the master would like to extend his invitation to you. And I was like, oh, fucking A, man, the fucking master. I was wondering who watched my videos to completion, and it turns out it was like, it's the master, man. I was like, fucking A, the master. And so he's like, are you ready for truth, man? Are you ready to awaken to the reality as it is, not as it is presented? And I was like, yeah, I mean, why not? This sounds cool also, you know, and then I'll get to meet my fan. I'll get to meet the master. I mean, that's cool. And so he's like, choose. Do you want the red pill or the blue pill? And I was like, okay, you know, and I was like, okay, I'll take the blue pill. And then there's like a silence on the phone. I'm not hearing from the freedom-loving individualist, the ethno-libertarian. There's some silence. And then I was like, oh, fuck, oh, shit, I really haven't watched The Matrix in a while. This is not the right pill. And I was like, I'll take the red pill. And he's like, yes, excellent. The master will be pleased to hear it. And, soon be prepared to speak with the master. I was anxiously waiting to speak with the master. I mean, I felt like my whole life depended on actually talking to this master. I mean, if nothing else, he was the only person watching my YouTube videos. And I've heard that he liked my content, and what could be better than that? And so one day, finally, I was having sleepless nights, and at the middle of the night, I receive a call. I don't recognize the number, and I feel that this is the master. I take the call, and I say, hello, is this the master? And there's just silence. There's total silence. So I was like, oh man, I gotta break the ice. I was like, man, like getting to talk to you is like taking the SATs. It's the blue pill and the red pill. You gotta remember the matrix. I was like, I almost was afraid we'll never speak. And now we're talking. And again, like there's nothing. And I just feel horrible. I just feel like a piece of shit. And suddenly, there's like weird heavy breathing on the other end. It's like, and then like suddenly he says, this is Stephan Molyneux. And I was like, whoa, YouTube celebrity Stephan Molyneux? I was like, oh my God, I'm such a huge fan. I was like, man, I love you standing up for the binary gender pronouns. I like your Bible series. I love your kind of talk of the archetypes and the critique of atheism. I just find you amazing. And then Stephan says, no, actually, you're confusing me with Jordan Peterson. And then once again, there was silence, and there was some heavy breathing, but not as heavy as before. It was more like, and I thought, I thought I'll break it in with a joke. Sometimes you just pretend to be a bigger fan of a person than you are. And I was like, hey man, all of you Canadians, you just kind of look the same to me. Once again, nothing, just a few breaths, like. And then he says, like, so anyway, Ivan, would you like to come here to Canada and shoot me in the balls for a YouTube video? And I was like, okay, hey man, let's do it. Now, whatever you may think about Stephan Molyneux, like him or hate him, agree with his politics or not, you have to admit that he's an original. He's an odd bird. He goes his own way. He has his own path. And this really became highlighted to me when I came to visit him in Canada. So for one thing, Stephan lives in the middle of this forest, like really straight up in the middle. But this is not the strangest part about it. The thing about Stephan is that he actually lives in a White Castle. And I don't mean like a White Castle. I mean the actual kind of restaurant franchise. Like he lives in that restaurant in the middle of the forest in Canada. And, I was driving through the forest on my old beat up Acura, and I noticed the figures moving in the forest. And at first I thought these are deer, but then I look closer and it's like, no, it's his security. They were all just these in camo, and they were really fat. They were like, they were fat autistic kids in camouflage. And, they were doing their job though. They were really trying. They were, they were good guys overall, So I'm driving through the forest, and I see the White Castle. I finally see the White Castle, the whole thing. And as I drive over there, it's almost like a reception for a head of state, because I see all the freedom-loving individualists, the ethno-libertarians, whatever. I mean, I see them all lined up in identical White Castle uniforms, and Stephan Molyneux is the only person not wearing a uniform. He's actually wearing a black turtleneck, and he kind of has his stretch, his hands outstretched like it's, I don't know, Joseph Stalin welcoming Winston Churchill on a state visit. I mean, it was pretty cool. I was really psyched up about the whole thing, even though it was kind of, on the other hand, it was a little creepy and odd. So I park my car in the White Castle parking lot. It's completely empty. I greet Stephan, I greet the individualists, the freedom-loving individualists, the followers of Stephan Molyneux. And then we all go inside the White Castle. And the first thing I say is I was like, man, they don't even have White Castle restaurants in all the states in America. And I'm just surprised that they have them in Canada. And suddenly, everybody just starts laughing, like starts giggling and laughing. And then I see Stephan, and he just has a kind of a wry, knowing smile. And then he tells me, Ivan, no, there are no White Castles in Canada. We just perfectly, recreated the restaurant. And here in the middle of the forest. And one of the individualists, he says, yeah, the master expects only perfection. The master demands perfection because the White Castle is the representation of Western civilization. It's the castle of whiteness. It's the castle of the Western civilization. And Stephan kind of looked at the individualist with a little bit of reproach. I mean, he often did. They didn't always state things exactly the way he wanted to. And I have the eye for these kinds of details. And then Stephan turns to me and he says, you know what White Castle is known for? It's those little small burgers, the tiny White Castle burgers, the sliders. And I was like, yeah, no shit. I mean, of course, I wasn't gonna say that. I mean, I only had just a few subscribers, and I needed to learn to keep my mouth shut. And then he's like, Ivan, do you know what else is small? And I was like, yeah, I mean, a lot of things that are small, like insects and toy cars. And then he says, white men's penises. Kind of out of the blue, he says it. And I mean, if I look back at this moment, this is kind of where it started kind of heading downhill. And I was thinking to myself, I'm 6'4", Russian, and it's just... I mean, the penis is not, not lacking, if you know what I mean. But I had a few subscribers, my content could really be improved. And so I didn't want to contradict Stephan. And he kind of continued that, he said, if you look at old Greek and Roman statues, a lot of the male penises are very small. And I was like, that's actually a good observation. I've noticed that before, but it's nice to have it pointed out again by Stephan Molyneux. And he says, it's the blacks and the feminists and the neo-Marxists and the postmodernists who want to shame the white man about his small penis. And I was thinking to myself, what is he fucking talking about the small penis for? It's not every white guy has a small penis. What's the deal? Why are we talking about it? But I never really did find out what he was leading to there, because the conversation just abruptly stopped. And this is how it was with Stephan. He's just an odd bird. He's not like everybody else. And the individualists say, we have total devotion to our leader, our master, our genius. And I never kind of completely had that kind of a commitment, but you just got to give a dude his space, And then all of a sudden he snaps his fingers, and all the ethno-libertarians, they just kind of scattered out of the restaurant, and only the main one remained. And he's Stephan is I want to treat you to a Molyneux slider. And, a tiny burger was brought to me. But after all these talk about penises, I really to be honest, I really didn't want to eat at that time. And I said, hey, can we have a drink of water here, And, Stephan is hey, bring us some seltzer. And the guy brings a seltzer and says, seltzer, the favorite drink of the Fuhrer. And again, Stephan kind of looked a little bit embarrassed, like this was not the time to bring this up. But whatever, I drank I drank the seltzer. I kind of took the Molyneux slider. I kind of like sneaked it into my pocket. I said I might eat it. I'm going to eat it later, just... I don't know, it's just like Molyneux slider. It didn't really kind of awake a lot of appetite in me. So here I am, I'm sitting in this White Castle in the middle of the forest with Stephan Molyneux. I kind of hid the Molyneux slider in my pocket, which I'm sure didn't make anybody happy. And it's just an awkward thing, very awkward. We're sitting and I'm sipping my seltzer and I'm looking at Stephan and I'm looking for him to say something. I want him to say something. I want him to have a normal human conversation. And the one thing I'm really afraid of is that shit he pulled on the phone, the breathing. I'm terrified of that. So I want to do anything I possibly can to avoid that. And so, I know Stephan is not a fan of communism, and actually I was born in Russia, which back then I was actually born in the Soviet Union. And I wanted to make a joke about communism to really kind of bind us together. And so I remember this one joke, and the joke is, about working in the Soviet Union, and it goes like this. We pretend to work, they pretend to pay us. And so I thought this is a good joke for Stephan because it shows the inefficiency of the communist economy. And it's just like I'm going to hit the bullseye with this one. And so I tell it to him and, again, fucking silence. So there's a couple of seconds of silence and then he starts laughing. And man, it wasn't like a normal laugh. It was like, and it's like, and it goes on, and then you think it's over, and then he's like, and it's unnerving, man. It's almost like it would be better if I didn't say this fucking joke. I mean, what the fuck is this? So again, I'm sitting there, again, silence, and fuck, man, I hope the breathing doesn't come. And this is the kind of thing you shouldn't say normally when talking to people, but I was just nervous. I was out of place. Even in America, I normally don't go to White Castle. So the whole atmosphere was strange, and I just said, hey, you have any small talk? I mean, nobody ever says this in real life, but I had no choice at that point. And then Stephan says, yeah, I have some small talk. He's like, I don't talk to my family. And I was like, okay, why? And he was like, because in my late teens, I was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. And then there is, again, fucking a lot of silences with Molyneux. So I just kind of sit there. And then one of his ethno-libertarian individualists, he just starts screaming, psychiatry is a fraud. Psychiatry is a big lie. Anyway, so I was like, I needed to change the topic. So I decided to talk about podcasts. I was like, I like to drive. I like to listen to podcasts. I said, I would listen to This American Life. I like this podcast, Criminal. I like some political podcasts, and I really enjoy Sam Harris. And so, on the one hand, this triggered Stephan into actually having a human conversation. But the strange thing about it is that when he was talking about Sam Harris, he would just start with triple parentheses, open, Sam Harris, triple parentheses, closed. It's like open parentheses, Sam Harris, triple parentheses. I just forget what the fuck, but every time he would say like triple parentheses, and he wasn't even, I thought this was a joke, but it wasn't. And on the other hand, he wasn't even saying anything negative. He would say just triple parentheses open, Sam Harris, triple parentheses closed, says a lot of intelligent things about Islam. So I really it was really grinding on me, the whole thing, and I was like, let's talk about the mission. Let's talk about why we're here. And Stephan, for the first time, I saw his face light up, and he explained the whole deal to me. So remember how we were talking about how Stephan is kind of in his own lane, how he's kind of an odd duck, he has original ideas that are maybe before their time, or maybe there shouldn't be any time for these ideas. Well, yeah, I mean, his idea for this YouTube video, it was eccentric to say the least. I mean, it took him, he had to repeat it to me a couple of times for me to get it. So basically the idea was that he believed that the white man is cucked by multiculturalism, that the white man has to be uncucked and has to confront his fears that were superimposed on him by society. And so his idea was that Stephan Molyneux would come out of the White Castle and he would be wearing a chain, and it would be a golden chain, and he explained that this chain was the chain of Western civilization, liberty, and critical thinking. And at the bottom of the state chain there would be an amulet, a pendant, whatever, made out of red diamonds. It was the red pill, of course. So he would be walking out of the chain, and then a no-good black thug would confront him and try to snatch the chain away from him. And Stephan would resist, of course, and the black thug wouldn't be able to do it. And then in revenge, he would aim for Stephan's white penis to emasculate him and shoot him in the white penis. But Stephan at this point would have a cover, something he could protect his white penis with, and it would be what he described as one of the most important books of the Western canon, which was The Bell Curve by Charles Murray. So The Bell Curve is the book that describes genetic differences in intelligence, and proclaims in one of the chapters that black people are a standard deviation behind the white IQ. So Stephan would cover his penis with the bell curve, and on top of the bell curve he would have a few printouts of the Wikipedia page describing the differences in intelligence. It was explained to me that this Wikipedia entry is a big red pill for a lot of Stephan's ardent fans, that it's a rite of passage to skim through this Wikipedia page about entry about the differences in IQ by race and ethnicity. So this was kind of an odd idea, and I was like, how would I fit in? And he said, you're going to be the black thug, and you're going to put blackface on top of your face, and you'll be the black thug. So I thought this was kind of odd, and I asked, why me? And so Stephan started mumbling some shit about skull measurements, and listening to him, and then his ethno-libertarian students started explaining to me also, and eventually it came out to the fact that Russians are third grade whites, and even the Nazis thought so, and they wanted to take their land, and it's almost like the lowest white you can get next to a minority, and that it was a frozen kind of trailer park with white trash. So you would think I would be upset by this, but actually I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. I just didn't give a shit. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there, and I would do whatever it took. So Stephan wanted to hurry on with the plan. I did as well. His students came over me, and they asked me what kind of level of blackface they should apply, whether I wanted to be more of a light-skinned black or a darker skinned black. And then and then one of them said, probably the master once said darker skinned black. And I was like, just fucking do something, all right? Just fucking put this fucking shit on me, and let's get it over with. I'm tired of this shit. I was getting agitated. I was really getting agitated. So what happens next is a little bit odd. It really I have to say, the whole thing kind of went off the rails and didn't go according to plan. And just to explain my actions, I gotta say, the whole experience was very odd. I was somewhat agitated through because of all the kind of awkwardness and weirdness. And I was wearing blackface, and they gave me a loaded gun, and I don't really, handle firearms that often. And so, yeah, I mean, this kind of explains what happens next. But basically, I was sneaking around the woods, around, the White Castle, and then I see Stephan, walking out with his Western civilization chain, and the pedant, and it was a nice chain. I mean, they really put some effort into it. And so I kind of come over, and I was like, hey, motherfucker, give me the fucking chain, you fucking cracker, you piece of shit, give me the chain. And Stephan started talking about like the property rights and the importance of property and its dominion over all the other rights. But I really, I was not in the mood. So I just fucking pistol whipped him and took the chain. Now this was not pre-planned. This is just kind of my improvisation on the sketch. And I noticed that the individualists who were filming this, they were starting to get a little nervous. But the thing is that Stephan probably could have ended it right there, but I think he really was overwhelmed by my blackface. I mean, Stephan doesn't see a lot of minorities, and he was even afraid to involve an actual minority in the sketch because he was afraid he was actually going to get robbed. But in this case, I mean, maybe it didn't turn out much better, So Stephan then proceeded to kind of talk about, he started talking about, the achievements of the white man and the civilizations that they built. And I was like, motherfucking pigskin peckerwood, fucking stop with that shit. I don't want to hear that shit. And honestly, I didn't want to hear that shit, But he continued. And he was saying something. I really started zoning out. It's almost like I feel that this is surreal to me at this point, remembering this stuff. But he started talking about some IQ measurements in sub-Saharan Africa and how low they were, and what an IQ advantage Europeans had. And then he said, it's not about. I used to believe in the equality of. Opportunity over the equality of outcome, but I'm no longer even believe. In the equality of opportunity, because I think that the Western civilization is becoming contaminated. And I was like, shut the fuck up, cracker. I don't want to hear this shit, motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. And this again correlated with my genuine sentiments. And at this point, he again kind of returned to the IQ of sub-Saharan Africa, and I was like, motherfucker, I told you to shut the fuck up. I told you many fucking times to shut the fuck up, and you fucking wouldn't, you dumb cracker. I said, I got all the IQ advantage in my chamber right here. And then I really sort of impulsively, I started shooting at him. I did aim for his white penis, and he did cover it with the bell curve. But much like with Pedro, it didn't quite work out because it did make the contact with the skin or with the flesh, and I did see kind of blood dripping through his copy of the bell curve. And at this time, there was really no reason to stick around for me. So I just kind of, I headed from my vehicle, and I started driving out of the forest. So I noticed, his security guards interrupted their Dungeons and Dragons game and started chasing me. But a lot of them seemed to have experienced diabetic seizures and stuff like that. So it was really not an issue. I just left. And, what conclusions can I make? I mean, Canada is a strange place. I mean, you think it's over the border, but it really is. It's really is a strange place. And I never liked the White Castle that much, but now it's just a complete no. No White Castle for me. And finally, the video never came out. I don't know what happened to the video. I think that it's a goner. So once I got back to the States, I did receive a few calls from the ethno-libertarians, you know, the individualists, and they would just say, you know, the master wants his chain back. But, you know, the thing is, I went through all the hassle. I never got compensated for all the gas, for the mileage. I don't have a new car exactly. So, I mean, really, maintenance is important and oil changes. And so I never really felt compelled to return the chain. I did sell the chain off. I sold it to the president of the Anus Sarkeesian Circle Jerk Society. The guys get together in the circle, and there's a picture of Anus Sarkeesian, and you know what happens. He introduced himself as Sargon of Akkad, and I guess I only later realized who he was. So that's kind of the end of that story. But the point I want to say is, don't judge people for what they do to get YouTube views. I mean, Pedro is not the only casualty. I'm happy that Molyneux survived. I never inquired what happened to the master's phallus, but then again, it's none of my business. It's not, I didn't bring fucking these dicks up, you know, sitting in a fucking fake White Castle. It's, you know, what the fuck. But yeah, guys, I mean, you watched so far, subscribe to this channel. Everything on this channel, 100% legit, 100% true.